Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the podcast, The Caregiver's Toolbox, where we give you information and education about caregiving topics. My name is Ryan McAniff. I'm your host. I'm also the owner of a private agency in Boston called Minute Women Home Care. And today I have a great guest with me, Casey Rausin, the not CEO, the COO of Care Around the Block, a care management and caregiving company based in Knoxville, Tennessee. Casey, thank you so very much for being on the program.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
Well, you said in the pre-interview that you're not good at talking about yourself. So let's start talking about yourself. Give people a background of what you do, what Care Around the Block is all about, and kind of, that synopsis. And then we can talk about how you got involved with all of this.
Absolutely. So I am a nurse by trade. I graduated nursing school in, I believe, 2008. So I've been doing this for a little while. And out of nursing school, it took a little while for me to figure out kind of what my niche was and kind of where I wanted to spend my career until I came to work here in 2012 and just really found a love for caring for the aging population, providing that advocacy for them, making sure that the goals that they set for their care are being honored and being able to be carried out. And I have been here ever since. So going on, I think year 11, we were a family business. Care on the Block is a family business started by Mary Wegman. And when I first came to work here, I think I was maybe the 7th person hired. And now we're pretty big business, well over 100 employees, and doing lots of different things. It's been really fun to watch the business grow, to be a part of that, to add other businesses along the way, other different service lines that we do. We started as a care management company and then added a non-medical home care company in 2015 for lots of different reasons. And so it's been really fun. It's been a wild ride, but not one that I've ever really regretted. So
I didn't realize you had 100 employees. That's a lot of employees.
Yeah. It's a lot to keep up with.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine that's a lot of stories that in a book or two could be written about some of your experiences with that. And so, you consider Care Around the Block care management first and caregiving second, or is it now 50-50, or is one greater than the other in your eyes?
Yeah, so we're a care managed home care company is how we refer to ourselves. So we've done a lot of back and forth over the years of what works best, and we want to serve everybody. When we get into this industry, we all have servants' hearts. Most of us are nursing or have some kind of a clinical background in healthcare, and most people in healthcare have a servant's heart. So it's hard to turn people away, but after doing this for several years, we've spent a lot of time trying to identify who our ideal clients are and who we can best serve in the community. And really about the past year and a half, we've really put a lot of focus on that and identified that care management is what we're best at. And so we're a care management company first. We require that all of our clients have some form of care management. We do have a minimum. We do a full initial assessment on them and look at them as a whole and what their goals are. And then we also address areas of concern, things that maybe they haven't thought about, and not just what's concerning right now in the moment, but what might be concerning 6 months from now or 6 years from now. And what we're really looking for is that lifelong client. And whether you may not need, you may not need every service that we have to offer today, but you might need that, in time. So we just meet you where you're at on your journey, and you're able to utilize any service that we offer. You cannot use our care partners, unless you have care management. So we often, we partner with a couple other agencies in town that we've thoroughly vetted and have great relationships with, and we will refer out to them, other home care companies, and partner with them to let them provide that the home care if they just need, if they're resistant to the care management or just have, family that provide that service to them. So.
That's great, and it sounds like you've figured out that you don't want to be everything to everybody. There's a certain group that you can really hit home runs with time and time again. And, like anything, relationships are a two-way street, whether they're a romantic relationship, a friendship, or a
Yeah.
business relationship. And you're finding that that's where the success is coming from really have dialed in the type of person and family and customer that you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. It is for sure. And the relationship is such a big part of what we do. I was with a new client on Wednesday, and on Thursday, I'm training a new care partner or care manager this week. And I normally don't do that, but I just felt the need to kind of jump in with 2 feet this time and do a lot of training with her. And it was completely different. So we're almost like we have the imposter syndrome, like we have to adjust ourselves and change who we are depending on the person that we're in front of. So we're looking for employees that are humble, hungry, and smart. And the smart piece is not always about intelligence. You have to be smart with people. You have to be able to adapt to the situation that they're in and meet them where they are and be patient and listen and kind and just look at what their needs are. And the role that I found myself in on Wednesday was completely different than what I found myself in on Tuesday. And so she and I were unpacking some of that this morning, and she was just like, yeah, it was totally different both days. And I was like, yep, it's always different. It's very individualized service that we offer, and it is a nationwide service. I mean, there's people all across the nation that offer care management. It's something that is very, very popular in a lot of the major cities, but it is getting out into some of the rural areas as well.
Well, I'm sure with video conferencing and even just simple phone calls, it's allowing those in rural areas that otherwise wouldn't be getting that type of service to be able to receive it. And yeah, maybe it's slightly better. Maybe it's more than slightly better to be able to have somebody come to your home, be able to see, smell, touch, and see what's going on and use your senses. But if that's not an option, well, then what's the next best option? And it seems like that's becoming more and more popular. Is that what you think things are headed for those kind of rural areas?
Yeah, I think that it is definitely nice to have that as an option. It's actually something we were talking about last week. We were looking into hiring a social worker, and we have a really large service area, and we're like, how can we have and she actually lived in a rural area, and we're like, how can we utilize this employee across all of our service area? And so we had talked about offering a telephonic option or video conferencing option. But yeah, I think technology just in general is the future of home care. So there's such a lack of caregivers, and I mean, we just don't have them. So we've got to figure out a way just to incorporate technology to be able to continue to care for the aging in their home.
So, and then just finally with the business itself. So you do the caregiving, but the caregiving can only be provided to existing customers of yours that are working with your care management team, correct?
Correct. So our care managers go out, they do the assessment, they look for those areas of concern, and then they take that and they write a care plan. And the care plan is what drives the care. And then the care partners come alongside the care managers and they carry out that care. So the care managers are really a group of healthcare professionals that are helping navigate the healthcare system, providing advocacy, going to doctor's appointments, assessing what's going on in the home. And then our care partners are the ones that are providing that transportation to the appointments, making sure that there's nutritious meals in the home and that the home is a good, clean environment and that the client is well cared for and clean and has good, clean laundry and all of those things. But it's definitely a team effort with everyone, and they're getting at a minimum a monthly visit with their care manager, depending on what program they're in. But most of the time, it's a monthly visit at minimum. Some people we see almost every single day, depending on what their needs are. But that's the beauty of it. We just meet you wherever you're at and whatever you need, and just kind of go from there.
And so we had kind of said we're going to talk about a little bit about you, but how do you find yourself getting into this industry now that we know what what you're doing for work and how it works out. How did you find yourself in the seat you're in right now as the COO?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. My dad, so I went to nursing school, right out of high school. I always knew that's what I wanted to be. Ever since I was about 10, my grandfather had a trach, which you don't even see people that have trachs much anymore, but he had a lot of home health care, and it fascinated me and I loved it. And my mama would shoo everybody out of the house whenever the home health nurses came because we couldn't interrupt them. But I would beg to stay in the house and watch what they were doing. And luckily, it was friends that I went to school with. Their mom happened to be his home health nurse, and she would talk my mama into letting me stand in the corner. It's okay if she watches me, I don't care. And so she would teach me and show me what she was doing, and it just added, to my interest and my desire to want to be able to do those things when I got older. And so I always knew that that's what I wanted to do. And I didn't realize how lucky I was, to know that until I've watched other people struggle to decide what they wanted to do with their life and determine what kind of career they wanted to choose, because I always just knew. So I feel like that was a blessing for me to know. So I was in the middle of nursing school, actually, and my father was in a really bad accident. He had a transfer truck accident that left him paralyzed from the chest down. And I was 21 when that happened, about to graduate. And so after that happened, I really became his primary caregiver. He was able to rehab a lot and do a lot for himself the first several years after he was injured. He was 47 when that happened. And but then it got to where he needed a lot more care. And they definitely don't even teach you in nursing school everything you need to do to care for someone that's paralyzed. It is a lot. It's just, and I definitely won't get into all of that, but it is a full-time job. You got to be careful with every single move that you make. You have to always be planning ahead, and it's a lot for that person living that way, and for those taking care of them. So I found myself doing that at a really young age. I then went into like work in a hospital to get some good experience there, worked in an emergency room, worked in skilled nursing, worked in hospice, and just really couldn't figure out where I wanted to land. And then met Mary, who was doing this. Basically, it was a startup when I started, and she was like, "Oh, yeah, I hire people that are old enough to be your mom or your grandmother." And I was like, "But I promise, I can do this. I can do this." And so she kind of hired me on a trial basis, and within like a couple of months, she was like, "Okay, yeah, you've definitely got more experience than I realized." So we kind of just been together ever since. She taught me so much, probably outside of my parents. There hasn't been anybody else that's been so influential in my life and cared, enough about me to teach me all the things that she has. So I'm very grateful for her that she put that time, effort, and energy into me. So she really taught me how to be a care manager. I went on to get certified in case management in 2014, and there was a handful of us that worked on this side of the business, and we just, committed to growing it and taking care of those that didn't, have anybody else to take care of them. We have a lot of solo agers that do not have children, that don't have anyone to depend on, and we take care of them, night and day, 365 days a year, 24/7. They know that we're going to be there, and it gives them really good peace of mind. So anyway, that's kind of how I got into the care management side. I used to, get bored and job hop quite a lot, but I've been here for 11 years and don't think I'm ever going anywhere else. So there's nothing boring about this job. There's nothing boring about home care. Just when you think you've seen it all or know it all, or some caregiver or care manager will surprise you with something, or there's nothing boring about this industry for sure.
No, absolutely not. And it takes doing that type of work and essentially working with people and having to know when to mirror them and to make them feel calm and collected, and then when to be able to kind of push back or have the heart to heart and the come to Jesus. There's a lot involved in that, and I'm sure like anything, it's every day's a lot different than the day before, and you're saying you hired somebody on and they're realizing that as well, and that's just part of it. So I mean, you've been doing this now, and clearly you're passionate about it, but I also think that it's kind of unique to go to what you're doing in which you're providing care management and then doing the caregiving. I know from my experience with Minute Women, and you met Debbie, Debbie certainly does a lot. I mean, I won't say she's a care manager, but there is definitely some hand holding with certain clients. There's definitely going a little bit above and beyond with certain clients that are outside of the scope of what traditional home care is like. Why do you, I mean, where, it's interesting. So 24-hour case shows up, right? And that is the creme de la creme in the home care world, right? There's no more hours that you can get. And then you're telling me that you would refer that out to somebody because they're not getting the case management from you, and that's not who your customer is. And I think it's good to kind of understand why that works so well for you, because I think to some people, we have professionals that listen to this podcast and we have families that listen to the podcast. They might not be able to kind of reconcile why that isn't great when you're dealing with the most amount of hours that one could ever have.
Yeah, so that would be really, really painful scenario. And I would really, really try hard to get them to get care management. And that doesn't happen a whole lot, but yes,
Gotcha.
that would be really painful. But it does sometimes. But what we found is that, our care managers come to work here because that's what they want to do. And if we're putting, our staff in a situation to where they can't do their job, that also makes them unhappy. And if you have unhappy caregivers and care partners, so let's say, we built this business model to where we're care managers, and our care partners know you always have somebody to call. And it's somebody that's going to be able to talk you down in this crazy situation, because we understand the clinical side of things. You can FaceTime me and I can say, this really is an emergency, or this is not an emergency. They always know that they have that. So it's a peace of mind for our other staff as well. So, but then let's say that we take a client that's super, super resistant to this and they don't want to be billed for that. But then you have, this caregiver that works with 4 clients over here that they have everything. It makes it really hard because then they feel like the care is not consistent across the board. So we try to do a good job of letting everyone know what program, people are in, but to also take that right kind of client so that the care can be consistent and that people are able to, do what we need to do to take care of the client. I recently met with another colleague. I have a mastermind that I meet with through the Aging Life Care Association. So if you are a professional on the call and you find yourself in need of a care manager, you can go to aginglifecareassociation.org and go to find a care manager. You can put in the zip code, you can put in the town, and you can find one closest to you, and vet them and have a conversation with them. A lot of times we do free consults to see if it would be a good fit. But so I was speaking with one the other day, and she was trying to come up with a new model to where, you could just kind of have a flat rate and everybody could get everything that they need. But, we haven't quite perfected that yet. So I hope she does, because I would like to be able to do that too. But one of the reasons that she wants to be able to do that is so that everybody can get that same level of care, and that they don't not pick up the phone and call you when they've had a fall because they don't want to be billed for it. So, we're all really passionate about wanting to provide this excellent level of care to someone. But, they have to be bought in. So it's very, very hard to care for someone that doesn't want care. A lot of times it happens with us, the children. People's children are overwhelmed, or people have had children later in life. So they're still taking care of their own, they're still raising their own kids, but then they're also caring for their aging parents, and working a full-time job, and they're overwhelmed, and there's not enough time in the day to do it all. And they want mom and dad to be taken care of, but they just can't be the one to do it. And so they're reaching out to us for help to navigate this situation, to be an extra set of hands. And mom and dad just, I don't want you to do that. I want my daughter to do that. And so it's that fine balance of us trying to figure out ways to help those families. And that situation, that is an ideal client. So we try our best to spend time building that relationship to make that work, because, we're trying to help that family so much. So it is, yeah, it's really hard to turn down turn down those clients. But we also try to build relationships with the companies that we send them to, so that, when they recognize that they really do need that care management, that they will in turn say back to them, hey, you really need to call Care on the Block. You need to give them a call back, because this is just more than what we can do for you, and they can do this for you, and try to get them to refer that piece of the puzzle back to us.
And don't get me wrong, and what you're talking about is certainly needed, because at some point in time along the caregiving journey, again, for a lot of adult children, and including the seniors themselves, we see it time and time again where we'll have caregivers go in there and they're treated like they walk on water, and the daughter or the son is treated poorly. And it's kind of that old saying that, you can treat the ones you love the most, sometimes the worst, right? And so when another person, you could be sitting next to the daughter who is saying the same exact thing verbatim, and it is falling on deaf ears from the daughter, but then when it comes from, Casey, the lovely case manager that's so sweet and nice, and it's always that all of a sudden they're willing to do it, and you see these daughters or these sons being like, what is going on? But and it can go both ways, right? And during that caregiving, during that care kind of decline, and as people get older and then they get more sick and they get more frail and pass away, there is a lot of emotions there, and there are a lot of needs for family members that technically private home care does not provide, right? Like, we are there to help out between the hours in which we're there, the hours which we're not, and then outside of those hours, as callous as it may be to say, like, that's what you're paying for us when we're there. And outside of those, like, if you have a complaint about an issue or something, of course we're there for. But when it comes to additional needs and additional, how do I set up with these other companies, ancillary services? Who do I talk to about the doctor's appointment that I don't know anything about, and all these various things? Or why does my mom hate me so much right now when I'm just trying to help her? I'm sorry, Mrs. Smith, like, that's not our expertise. I can't help you there any more than you're trying to help yourself. And that's certainly when an expert like you is really needed, to be able to kind of provide a 360 view, if you will, of like, hey, listen, I can be there to help you out in things in all walks of life, from the landscaper to the oncology department to the Ryan, the home care company that's driving you nuts for whatever reason it is. Obviously, you do the caregiving side as well, but that's kind of where a GCM, I still use GCM, I'm sorry, but the late life, I don't even remember, but GCMs are there to help you out with and be that resource.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think that I bring a unique perspective to what we do here at our company, because I have been a family caregiver as well as a care manager. And so I look at it from both sides. And so I have been that daughter that, and like, standing on my head, jumping up and down, screaming and crying, like, why will you not do this? And it never mattered the education that I had, or the certifications that I had, or however many years of experience. Role reversal is never normal for parents and children. So parents tell their kids what to do. Kids are not supposed to tell their parents what to do. And they don't like it. And they never really get used to it. And so I would leave my dad's house. I went there every day after work, and I would leave so upset so many times. Like, I'd cry myself all the way home. And I'm like, wow, will he just not do? Like, it's almost like you have a crystal ball and you're like, I can see what's going to happen to you if you don't do what I say. And they wouldn't. But even though I worked in this industry, it was an emotional thing for me, being my own parent. And so it took me forever to realize, hey, whichever caregiver is his best friend this week is the one that I need to go talk to and be like, hey, I really need him to do this. And if you'll tell him this, like, he'll do it. And once I figured that out, like, it really helped our relationship a lot. And I didn't have to be his caregiver, his care manager, his nurse. And like, it allowed me to really be his daughter. And like, that's our goal for all of our families, is to let us come alongside you and let you be the daughter, let you be the sister, let you be the wife, and let us do those tough things. Because, it's hard enough. What they're going through, having to be a patient, is hard. And to have people barking orders at them all the time and making suggestions, and That just makes it even harder, and he definitely didn't want me telling him what to do. So it's tough.
Absolutely. And so for people kind of like nationwide, like sitting there, what are the one, two, maybe three triggers or phrases or things that if a client says it, or if a adult child says it, or a situation somebody's going through, really should ring that bell that says this is the entry level, this is the start of what case management can help you out with? What do you think those top kind of like phrases somebody says to themselves or says to a confidant over lunch or dinner or grabbing a drink and saying, I'm having a difficult time with X, Y, and Z, and I just want to do I just want what are those kind of phrases that people should listen for, whether it's internally or whether they tell it to a friend or family member that says you should give a geriatric care manager, give Casey a call because this is what we can help you with?
Sure. So, a lot of times the way I start that conversation with people is that when you lay down to go to bed at night, like what's the three things that are keeping you awake at night? What are you worried about the most? And so a lot of what I hear is like, I'm worried about their safety. So if you're worried about mom and dad falling at night, or, eloping and leaving the house. So safety is a main concern. No longer being able to manage their medication. That's huge. That's something that we can come along. There's all kinds of things out there to help us do medication management at home. Transitioning to different levels of care. So that's something like, can I keep my mom or dad at home, or do they need assisted living or independent living or a nursing home? What is even the difference between all of these things, and what does it all cost? Like, what's the difference in paying for home care versus assisted living and independent living? Like, we can do a cost analysis for all those things and help you figure out what the best options are. So safety, planning, and then stressed caregivers. So if you've got someone that's overwhelmed, or I'm afraid my husband's going to divorce me, or I can't go, I only get to walk through high school with my kid one time and he's this amazing football player and I have to miss all of his games. Like, you can't rewind time. Yes, your parents need to be taken care of too, but like, you can't go back and make that up to your kid. So when you've got a stressed caregiver that is just unable to balance everything on their plate, that's another time that it's good to call a care manager. Or, we've walked this journey with people a million times. And if you're, a lawyer or a engineer, like, healthcare is not your thing. Like, you can be brilliant in your arena, but not have a clue what it means to navigate the healthcare system, or have a doctor standing in front of you telling you that your dad has cancer in 6 of his 12 lymph nodes and we need to do cancer, and then we might need to do chemo and radiation. And like, you just feel like you're getting blasted with a water hose. Like, what does this mean? So to have someone come in and like digest that for you, break it down in layman's terms, to do it in the comfort of your own home, to where it's not like a stressful situation in a hospital. Like, there's so much that we don't hear when we're in a hospital, because all we're thinking about is, I want to go back home, right? So to have somebody come to you when you're home in your safe space and really help you understand what's going on and provide that education. So education is another thing. Education, navigation, advocacy, safety, those would be my biggest things. So
It makes sense because, like I remember I consider it funny, like when my mom got cancer and we were going for one of the follow-ups, and this was like the big one, right? And my mom was like, nobody can ask questions. Just let this guy talk and let's listen. And of course, like 5 minutes into this explaining thing, I was like, well, I have a question about this and I have a question about that. And I just remember that look my mother gave me that was like, are you kidding me? Because she was trying to do what you help people with, which is like, let's just digest this and try to get the big bullet points that we need to know, and let's not get in the minutia. And of course, her son was getting in the minutia, and I couldn't help myself. So, but that's what happens with families. Like, this is what happens where it's too easy to go on a tangent and remember the 20% instead of the 80% of the big nuggets that you really need to. Just you mentioning that made me kind of laugh with the cancer, and not
Yeah.
Not that it's funny, but you go back to those situations where you have to laugh at it. So, I mean, with wrapping things up, and like any parting thoughts, anything that you want to let people know in terms of any additional information that can help when it comes to geriatric care management and care services like you provide.
I think if I could leave you with one thing, it's just, don't wait too long. I see so many people that just, they carry the burden and they carry the responsibility by themselves for so long. And you have to take care of yourself too. You can't pour from an empty cup. And so reach out for that help. You probably see this a lot too with long-term care insurance. Like, we have so many people that have long-term care insurance and save it for a rainy day, and they don't realize that they're standing in the middle of a tornado. So don't reach out, don't wait too long to reach out for help or get that consultation. And sometimes you are spending so much time out of work and time away from your family that if you just invest a little bit of your resources into hiring someone to help you, they can save you a lot of time. Because we've all done this before. Ryan's taking care of people for a long time. Like, we can point you in the right directions of things, and give you some advice and give you a roadmap, if you will, and we can save you a lot of time and heartache and energy too.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't, sometimes I don't think it's very eloquently, I say things eloquently, but what I mean to get across in the nicest way possible is that you're paying for this one way or another. And I know that everybody out there or everybody listening has the money to pay for maybe care management, private home care services. But if you have a boatload of money and you have a boatload of time, you can have one or the other, but you're not going to have both, and you're going to be stressed out. Your mental health will take its toll. Your physical health could take its toll. You could age faster because of this. And my dad is 76. His girlfriend is 80. They're in a retirement community, and the thing they say under the breath is the caregiver goes first. Like, somebody has an issue and then the loved one becomes the caregiver, and they see it time and time again where the senior caregiver is the first one that goes, not the person that's getting the care. And it's not a coincidence that that's being said in a retirement community, because it takes so much out of people. So I couldn't agree with you more. And usually people are, in my industry at least, I feel 6 to 12 months behind where they should be. Like, you're playing catch up by the time you usually call on me. So, but that's the world. Anyways, how can people reach out to you? What's your contact information if they're interested in learning more about you and your services?
Absolutely. So our website is www.carearoundtheblock.com. And then my email is kcrcaseyr@carearoundtheblock.com. And we monitor that all the time. We have a contact us link on there. There's a lot of information, on our website, more about the care management, as well as a link to the Aging Life Care Association if you are interested in looking at it too. There's a lot of good information on there too. So yeah, reach out anytime. I'd be glad to, connect you with another colleague across the nation, or just kind of talk some things out with you. I do have a passion for this and helping people navigate through some of the hardest parts in life. I don't know why they call it the golden years, because it's definitely not very golden most of the time. So.
Well, with that being said, Casey, thank you for your insight on this, your education, the information you're giving, and helping people that are listening to the podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great.
And to all our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you on the next one.
All right. See ya.